Hey guys, Steve from PC Budget Solutions here, and behind me here I have the $700 editing rig done, ready to go for my friend Denny. And today I'm bringing something special to you. It's the Ultimate Gaming Graphics Card Showdown featuring the RX 550 and the GT 1030. Okay, not really the Ultimate. A little bit of clickbait, not gonna lie, but so the purpose of the video real quick is gonna be you need something for video out. You don't want to get like a GT 710 because that's like really not going to do much. You want something with like OpenGL or CUDA acceleration. But what happens if you try to game on these? Can they even do it? Well, I don't know, but let's find out. So this is the system that I'm using. Here's the reason why I'm not using the highest end Ryzen 7 or i7 processor. You generally would buy something like a Quadro or an AMD FirePro graphics card for a really high-end editing ring. This is an entry-level editing ring. This is one that's going to run between $600 and $700. So I chose the Ryzen 5 1500X for one reason. 4 cores, 8 threads, and it had 16 megs of cache. The board, I really didn't want to save too much money here because I personally use this board and it's very solid. It'll support overclocking, it'll support RAM, hopefully down the road up to 3200. Currently it goes to 2400, but I'm happy with the board. RAM, easy choice, 2400 megahertz, a good SSD, good storage drive, a quality power supply, and a workable case. So here are the two cards. You got the MSI GT 1030 and the Gigabyte RX 550. Now, they're both with a single larger fan, they're both smaller cards. On paper, the Gigabyte RX 550 should win. You have 5 12-stream processors versus 384 CUDA cores. You have twice the memory interface at 128 versus 64-bit. A higher memory clock, 7 gigahertz versus 6. The bandwidth is almost triple. Pretty much is triple, almost a triple at 112 gigabytes per second versus 48. But the GT 1030 does have GPU Boost 2.0, goes all the way up to 1750 megahertz versus 1208. So let's find out. Let's take a look at some synthetics and see if that really matters or if the RX 550 walks away with it. As always, we're going to start with synthetics, and honestly, I had to do 3D Mark Skydiver. 3D Mark Firestrike, too much power, unfortunately. So a little bit of a disappointment, but 3D Mark Skydiver is designed for mid-range gaming computers, and it scored well at 66.67 FPS during the first graphics test with the RX 550, and the GT 1030 coming a little bit behind, approximately 20% behind in the first graphics test. The second one, the GT 1030, made up some ground, probably essentially 10% behind is what we were looking at. So overall, not too bad. Definitely some positive starts here. Let's continue with Valley and Heaven Benchmark next. Again, results looking pretty good here. Valley is not super difficult to run, so it's a tad bit disappointing only getting 46 FPS on the RX 550 and 44 FPS on the GT 1030. They both scored very close to each other. Only at medium settings, 1080p, no anti-aliasing. I've seen a lot better from other cards on the used market, these price ranges. But, I mean, Valley's not super old, so overall, not too shabby, to be honest. The same story holds true with Heaven Benchmark. Only was able to do medium settings, no anti-aliasing, things like that. Scoring a mere just shy of 42 FPS versus 36. We're looking at a 15% margin here. Not bad, but again, at the price range, you can find something used a lot better. And I kind of feel like that's probably going to be what we're going to run through this entire video. But the synthetics are done. Let's actually look at real world gaming. Now, GTA 5 is one area where an editing rig will be perfectly fine for GTA 5. GTA 5 does not require a lot of power. Using a mix of medium and high settings, I was getting what I would describe as playable frame rate. Anything north of a consistent 30 is definitely ideal, and the lows were in the 30s. They didn't really go any lower than that. And the game's very, very CPU heavy, so having a powerful editing rig really helps out with that. So I would go to say, if you're doing video editing and you have a basic card like this, GTA 5 is a perfect game for you. But let's keep going. So, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Not the best game to run. I mean, at low settings, it wasn't bad on the RX 550, posting about a 45 FPS average. The GT 1030 dipping in the upper 30s, just shy of 39. You know, we're looking at about 12 to 15% performance difference. But this is 1080p. This is low settings, so definitely not an impressive performance by either. But I would believe the RX 550 could at least play the game for the time being until you found something better. But this is just the second game. We have a couple more to look at. For Honor, another game almost similar to GTA 5. Granted, this was low settings 1080p, but at 57 and 52 FPS respectively with a 10% difference. Really good performance. Medium settings, they really both struggled. I don't have the graphs up here to show you, but they definitely dipped down probably. I think it was between 30 and 40%. Really big difference on medium, but low was fine. I think you could tweak some of the settings, things that weren't very like memory intensive, and the cards will actually do pretty well. So I would chalk this up as very playable and a good experience. One more game to look at. So by far the hardest game of the group to run. Ghost Recon Wildlands, time and time again, has always really put the cards to the test. The GTX 1080 on the highest settings still doesn't do that well. So no surprise here that low is the best settings I can get at 1080p. The frame rates aren't great either. I mean, we're talking barely playable if you consider mid-30s average to be playable. I mean, it's going to get the job done. It's not going to be bad, especially if you're used to consoles, and most of them do run at 30, not all of them. And, you know, the graphics chip that's in here is more powerful than the Xbox One and the original PS4. So, you know, definitely keep that in mind. But overall, I think this kind of comes to one conclusion, and we're going to talk about that. So here is how I'm going to sum it up. I would not buy either card, even on a budget, to play games. So on the used market, you can find yourself a card that's easily more than twice as powerful for the prices that we paid, which I think we paid 70 and 75 or 70 and 80 or something like that. Now, the reason why I didn't get my friend a used card is because we wanted a brand new rig and on a budget. He didn't need anything other than something like a GT 1030 for display output. It runs really cool. It'll do CUDA acceleration and things of that nature. So that's the reason why we did it. But overall, I think they held their own. It goes to show us that even these cards do have a purpose other than just display. They can game at pretty much the lowest settings, and in most games deliver a playable or a decent experience. And honestly, probably better than the current generation consoles. Although the Xbox One, S, X, whatever's coming out in the near future, that's going to change everything up a lot. But until then, not a bad option. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Was this kind of cool to figure out, you know, what these low-end cards can really do? If there is a place for them, I'd definitely be interested to hear your comments. Definitely like it if you liked it. If you didn't, that's fine. I will leave in the description below basically a link to everything that was purchased in this computer behind me. This editing rig here, if you want to get a budget editing rig as well. That'll help me out a lot. But thank you guys for tuning in. This is Steve from PC Budget Solutions, and I'll see you guys later on down the road. And don't forget to subscribe.